Hi, my name is Sebastian, and I'm the author of Getting Older with Grace. And I also have authored many other books about creating less stress in your life. Right now, what I'd like to do is I would like to read a little bit from my book so you can see if you'd like to buy it. And I'll put all of the information about the book in the information below. This book, I just come home from a funeral where his wife's best friend, she has two best friends, and her name, the wife is Veda, and he's been married to Veda for 40 years after he got her pregnant, 16 years old. And she has two best friends, Grace, and like the title of the book, and another friend who just passed away. And she invites Grace over for dinner. And this is the story that happens as she invites Grace over for dinner. Okay, trying to find it. Ever since Veda's hysterectomy, she said she just didn't feel like being close anymore. She said it had something to do with her hormones. I tried not to know too much about those women things. The less I knew, the more I didn't have to listen to her complaints about her aches and pains. In the past few years, Veda had one chronic pain after another. At first, it was a bad case of the grip, then arthritis, then she started having hot flashes, then spells. It seemed like she just needed something to tend to after her two girls left home. Betty Jean to the police academy, and Lola May quickly got married to Carl, my can't-do-nothing-right son-in-law. That's not to say that I thought Veda was faking her pains. I just figured that maybe she needed some kind of attention. Instead of tending to her, though, I just backed off. I barely spoke to her much. That was no way to live my life. Our lives. It wasn't fair to her, to me. I wanted to be happy, damn it. I deserved it. I got up all the nerve and walked into the kitchen to talk to her about separating. Veda was cooking chicken and dumplings for supper. I think I heard her say it was Grace's favorite meal, and that's why she invited her. I was mad because I wanted to know Grace's favorite everything. I wanted to know her favorite color, her favorite television show, her favorite drink on a hot summer's day, her favorite perfume. Veda didn't even look at me when she said, "Be a dear and pass me the pepper, Jimmy. Grace is going to be here any minute and the salad ain't even tossed." She grabbed the pepper from my hand before I had the chance to hand it to her. "Veda, honey," I said, "don't be bothering me with no trivial things right now, mister. I can't do anything myself. I got to get dinner finished and the house cleaned up before Grace gets here." "Well, that's what I wanted to talk to you about," I said. Then she pushed me out of the way, and that kind of behavior wasn't like Veda at all. I grabbed her arm and turned her around. "What did you do that for?" I asked her, finally looking into her eyes, right past a glare into her heart. She turned her face away from me, trying to pull away. Veda was never much of a fighter, except for bickering now and again. I think we only minced words once in our entire marriage. I had told her to use butter in the vanilla pudding instead of margarine, like she usually did. "Veda, look at me now," I said. Sheepishly, she peered into my eyes and burst into tears. I can't believe this is happening to me. Now, of all times, her knees got weak. She fell into my arms. I hadn't felt her that close for God knows how long. Her pink cotton dress felt damp to the touch. Her body quivered in my embrace. I pulled a kitchen chair out from the table and sat her down. "Try to settle yourself now and tell me what's wrong." I just knew she was going to tell me she'd heard all about Grace and me. My belly got all sick and I felt as if I was going to throw up right there. She said, "I went to Doc Eisner last week." Veda had picked the only Jewish doctor in the whole damn town. She told me Jewish doctors were God's chosen physicians. Who was I to argue? I'd never even looked at the inside of a Bible. "He said that I had something on me," she said, her chin quivering now. "Something on you? Something on you?" I said. "What do you mean, something? What something?" "A lump," she whispered. The potatoes boiled over and the front doorbell rang at the same time. I didn't move. You gonna be all right? She just stared at me. You gonna be all right, aren't you? My voice was louder. Veda, honey, you're all right, aren't you? Her mouth hung open. She couldn't get the words out. I got cancer, Jimmy. I got the test back yesterday. I didn't know whether to be mad or sad. Well, why on earth didn't you tell me about this before now? Well, the water from the potatoes sizzled on the electric burner. Neither of us moved. The knocks from the front door came louder and more consistent. They didn't catch it in time, Jimmy. Jimmy, I'm gonna die, just like Spybo. I'm gonna die. When I looked at her in the casket today, I saw myself, Jimmy. The knocks from the front door came louder and faster. The water scalded on the stove, crackled, hissed, mocking me. I pushed the pan off the burner and knelt down beside Veda. I took her hand and looked her into her eyes. Do you want me to get the door? With tears rolling from her eyes, she nodded, trying to smile. I handed her a dish towel and headed straight for the front door. I pulled the door open with mixed emotions, like opening a long-awaited letter, not sure of its contents. Grace had walked to the steps, clutching her long canary-yellow silk scarf. Leaning against the white porch post, her teal satin blouse caressed her silky skin. She turned around slowly, her arms crossed, her hands folded in front of her mouth. Jimmy Joe, she whispered, life's not fair, is it? I put my hand on her shoulder to console her. A little cool out here for April, ain't it? She drew me towards her with one sweeping arm motion. It was as if she had some sixth sense that this would be our last moment of comfort together before I take my place by my dying wife. We embraced bare soul to bare soul. I knew in that moment she understood me, felt everything I felt. I wondered why I'd waited so long to recognize this. Thank you for being such a compassionate shoulder to cry on, Grace said. Pots clanged from inside the kitchen like a warning buzzer, indicating our time was up. We turned like soldiers and entered the house, not two separate units, not one like the instant before. Slowly we entered the house, the same walls, the same separate families that kept us apart for so many years. My hand at the small of her back, I led her to the kitchen where Veda stood by the stove fixing the last bit of the meal. My gosh, Veda said, wearing a broad smile. 3 seconds more and I would have burned the darn rolls. She tipped the pan of crescent rolls into a lined bread basket and practically threw the empty cookie sheet into the sink. She'd taken to using popping fresh. So she said she had no use in making them from scratch when all you had to do was pound the tube on the counter and they all came out perfect. Every time. Veda asked, is there anything I can do to help you? Veda looked at me like she had seen a ghost. Excuse me? I said, is there something I can do to help you? She squinted and felt her forehead. Veda, Grace said, you okay? My heart hastened. Yes, Veda said, I just had to check to myself to see if I was still alive. This is the first time in 20-some years my husband had offered to help me in the kitchen. I was shocked as all. I shook my head. I hope you get the gist of a little bit about what's happening. You want to understand more or feel a little bit more about what's going on. Again, I'll put the information inside the product information just below.